Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're digging into the sources you shared about watercolor painting.
Yes.
And looking at them, it seems pretty simple at first glance, right? Water, pigment, paper. But the materials, they suggest there's something, I don't know, unexpectedly deep going on here.
Absolutely. It's often seen as, well, fragile, maybe a bit difficult to handle.
Yeah, notoriously tricky.
Right. But it seems to pack this surprising emotional punch.
Okay, so that's interesting.
And what really jumped out at me from your sources was this idea. It's not just about technique. It's framed almost like a moving meditation.
A moving meditation.
Yeah, like a way to tap into deeper feelings.
Yeah.
So our mission, I suppose, for this deep dive is to figure out why. Why are these sources drawing that line?
Okay, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Your notes pointed out how different watercolor is, say, compared to oils or acrylics.
Oh, completely.
With those, you layer, you fix things, you're pretty much in command.
Yep, total control, more or less.
But one article you sent over described watercolor as having a mind of its own, which I liked.
That sums it up perfectly. The sources really emphasize that it's not like just putting down a flat patch of color.
How so?
Well, because the pigment is suspended in water, right?
Yep.
And it sinks into the paper. It doesn't just sit on top.
Usually with certain techniques.
Exactly, like wet on wet. You put the paint down and then the water just carries it. It spreads out, it blooms, it makes these soft kind of fuzzy edges that you maybe didn't plan on at all.
Okay, and that's where it gets really interesting, connecting back to the emotion thing.
Right.
You shared one piece that made this explicit comparison between that unpredictability and, well, feelings.
Like, you might start painting with one idea, one feeling.
But the result, how it actually dries and settles, can be totally unexpected.
Yeah, and sometimes it's, surprisingly beautiful, maybe even more interesting than if you'd had total control.
So the point isn't fighting the paint.
No, not at all. It's about following where the water wants to go, letting it lead.
Let's link this to the bigger picture then, that idea of following the flow. I think one source called it that.
Yeah, that phrase came up, and it seems core to why people find it, meditative.
How so?
Well, unlike maybe oil painting with all the setup or detailed drawing needing lots of planning, your sources talk about the simplicity.
Right, brush, color, paper. That's basically it.
And your notes mentioned how this low barrier felt like less mental friction. It just makes it easier to start, to just be in the process,
So it's really shifting the focus away from making a perfect picture, like something for a gallery.
Exactly. The sources really push this idea. You don't even have to paint like a thing, a recognizable object.
You can just play.
Yeah. Just explore how colors bump into each other, how they blend on the page, softly.
Which brings up a key question, and one of your sources tackled this directly. If the goal isn't that polished final artwork, then what is it?
Good question. And that piece suggested the goal is simply to be present, Just be with the materials, right there, in that moment.
Presence, okay.
And that stillness, that focus you need, just watching the water and pigment do their thing, that's the connection to moving meditation.
Okay, I see that. And another thing that really stood out in your materials was letting go of being right.
Oh, definitely.
That unexpected bleed of color or that bloom you didn't intend, it's not framed as a mistake you need to fix.
No. One artist quoted in your stuff called it a gift from the water.
A gift from the water. I like that. So watercolor kind of teaches you to embrace those little accidents.
Yeah, to see them as part of what makes that specific piece unique and beautiful.
And accepting those unplanned bits, well, it forces you to slow down, doesn't it?
It really does. You have to slow down to actually see those subtle shifts happening on the paper.
Slow down enough just to feel whatever comes up while you're in that quiet space.
Right. One source even used the phrase gentle surrender. Surrendering to where the water leads.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the takeaway for you listening?
I think the message distilled from these sources is pretty powerful, mainly because it sort of takes the pressure off.
Totally. It removes that need for artistic skill.
You really don't need to be a trained artist for this to be meaningful. It's not about the final object.
It's about the action, the process itself.
It's about choosing that moment, that quiet presence.
Choosing to express something, maybe just a feeling with color and water, and crucially, choosing to let go of that tight control and just feel.
So this deep dive into your sources on watercolor really shows how embracing that bit of unpredictability, that following the flow, can be, well, quite a profound way to connect with emotions.
And find some quiet presence in what's often a really busy world.
Yeah. It highlights that beauty isn't always about perfect planning. Accepting the unexpected, even things that look like mistakes at first.
Can open up new things on the page, maybe.
And maybe off the page, too. It's about the feeling you get during the process, not just the picture at the end.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. If allowing water and pigment to create something unplanned on paper can, according to these sources, teach us so much about acceptance and slowing down to feel. What other parts of your life might open up just a little if you decided to embrace a bit more unpredictability? Maybe just try to follow the flow sometimes. Something to think about.